didn't. You know how it happened?
How it happened?
Did you know I was never an assistant in the church
Wow.
before I became a pastor's wife? Do you know I was never a member of the church before I became a pastor's wife? I was a visitor. We were a visitor in the church. This was back in 1980, well, 1986, very end of 1986, December 1986. We moved to New York City, where the church had just begun with Bishop Macedo. And then when we met him, he was overseas at the moment. He came back in January, and we met him, and he met my husband, and we were excited to be, this is brand new. There's so many new things. All this stuff about fighting, overcoming the devil, casting out demons, healing, miracles. This was really new to us, because we had grown up in Christian homes, but we never knew any of this. This was totally new, and we were excited. But we didn't really consider ourselves members of the church, really. We didn't really know. It was all new. We were just learning. And it was about a week or two after we had met Bishop that he called my husband aside and said, would you like to become a pastor? Choose. Either you be a doctor, because he had just graduated. He got his degree as a doctor. Either you want to be a doctor. Do you want to be a doctor, or do you want to be a pastor? You choose. And my husband, we had always thought, well, someday after he becomes a doctor, we can do missionary work. And we can serve God. We can travel overseas for a year or two and do missionary work and come back. So we always thought we would do some kind of ministry as a doctor's family. So my husband said, well, I'd always thought I could do both. And Bishop said, no, there's no time for both. You choose one or the other. If you want to be a doctor, fine. God's going to bless you. If you want to be a pastor, you're going to be blessed so much more. And immediately he knew that's what I want. He was ready to just throw it all away, all his education, all his student loans. Just say, God, I don't know how I'm going to pay this off, but it's up to you. And so he told me on the ride home that night, he said, guess what Bishop asked me? I said, what? And he told me, and I thought, oh, that's a joke, right? You're not serious, are you? Because we had just gone through 3.5 years of his education. I had worked while he was going to school, and I was really looking forward now to not having to work. He's going to be a doctor now.
Even doctor's wife.
Yeah, I could be a doctor's wife. We can have a house. We can have, get some property and have our kids and settle down. And now to give all that away, and it's a longer story of how it all happened. But at that moment, it really caught me by surprise. But the one thing that stood out in my mind was, I had always told God, God, I will do anything you ask me to do. Because to me, even before I knew the church, I knew that that was what a true Christian is, that you say yes to God. No matter what the sacrifice, no matter how hard, you always say yes to God. And at that moment I thought, God, is this really you? Because if it's not you, let me know, because I really don't want to say yes to this. And I had thought, if God had asked us this years ago, I would have jumped at the chance, because we hadn't invested anything in our life. If he had asked me, when I was younger, I would have. But now, only now, when we had invested so much in this other career, but because I knew that it was God, I said, okay, I'm diving in. I'm diving in head first. I don't know if I'm going to crack my head open on a rock at the bottom of this cliff, but I'm just going to dive in, because if this is God saying go, I got to go. And so I still haven't cracked my head open yet.
That's good. That's good.
26 years ago.
And you've blessed so many lives throughout this. How was your experience with the Holy Spirit?
My baptism in the Holy Spirit? Well, I had thought I was baptized in the Holy Spirit before I began in this church. So that was a confusing thing. That was a big confusion for me when I started here, because there were a lot of things I thought I knew from other churches. It was like God had to delete a lot of stuff in my mind that I thought I knew, to begin to learn again what was truly His will, what was truly His word. And so when I truly was baptized in the Holy Spirit is when I really learned how to surrender. Just surrender my all to Him and not hold anything back. And I think the process of us having to give up our dreams for the future was a part of that sacrifice that led me to the point of being able to be baptized in the Holy Spirit, because it was like, I'm totally yours. I have nothing to hold on to. And I don't know what's going to happen in my future. I have no control. I've just totally lost control. Like, imagine if you're in a car spinning on a sheet of ice and you just have no control. That's kind of how I felt. But that was the moment that God could take me and baptize me and fill me. And one nice thing that I came to realize about the baptism in the Holy Spirit, because, you know, we always talk about the fruit.
Yes.
You know that you're baptized in the Holy Spirit when you have the fruit, the love and the joy and the peace and all that. And I really saw that you know that you have that fruit when you're in the toughest times, when it's the hardest, when you feel like it makes no sense at all, and you have love, and you have peace, and you have joy, and you have goodness, and all those others. And it makes no sense, and then you know this is something supernatural. This is something that I can't do by myself. This is God in me. And that's when I could see I did have the baptism of the Holy Spirit. Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Miss Evelyn, for
Yes.
your time. One more person's going to interview you.
All right.
But thank you from my part. I know this video is going to help a lot. Because I've had the pleasure of, you know, having you as a trainer and stuff, and, you know, I've learned so much from
And
you.
see how much you've changed?
And I know, thank you so much for your guidance. I know you're guided by the Holy Spirit, but you've been a blessing, you know, and I know you're going to bless so many other ones that haven't had the chance to actually, you know, had a one-on-one conversation with you and everything. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. All right, it's my pleasure. Yes.
¿La hago en español?
If you want to, but you have someone will
I'll
have to translate.
translate.
Okay.
En los 26 años que tiene de servir a Dios, ¿ha tenido algún momento que ha querido abandonar?
In the 26 years you've been serving the Lord, has there been a time that you wanted to leave, abandon,
Give up the work of
give
God?
up the work of God?
Oh, yeah. Especially in those first few years. Those first few years when we had made that sacrifice to give up, you know, his career. And it was made purely by logic. That was not an emotional decision at all to decide I want to be a pastor's wife. That it's okay for my husband to become a pastor. And there were always temptations. I remember the devil tempting me a lot in those first years. We would drive by a doctor's office, and I'd look, you'd be driving by, and I'd look and think, oh, he could be working there, you know? And I'd think, oh, what have we done? You know, the devil, because I was so young, it was so new. Everything was so new. It was just by raw faith. There was no emotion at all. Raw faith telling me, this is your decision, this is your commitment, you gotta stick with it. You're gonna do this. You are gonna do this. And it was something that I had to hold on to. And as those first couple years went by, and I had all this hope that I was gonna be healed, right? I had this hope my eyes were gonna be healed because I had that eye disease, and nothing was happening. A year would go by, another year would go by, nothing was happening. And the pastors would pray for me, and they would bless water, they would bless oil, they would bless this and that, and they'd pray over me, and I was not getting better. And I was terrified of going to the doctor. And I just thought, this is just not working. It's just not working. I guess God just doesn't want to heal me. And I remember one day talking to my husband. I can't remember if our son was already born. I don't know if he was already born or I was expecting our oldest son. And I said to my husband, I feel like a fraud. I'm a fake. I'm a pastor's wife. I'm supposed to be counseling people in the church, and I'm blind. You know, what am I doing here? Why am I, you know, I'm a fake. How can I give anybody any counsel? How can I pray for anybody? And I just felt like, you know, I think I have to stop. I might as well just quit because, you know, I'm deceiving people into thinking that I have anything to give them. I don't. And I remember him getting very upset with me. And he said, This is where God's called us. I don't understand. I don't know why you're not healed, but God has called us to this, and this is what we're going to do, and that's it. This is final. And I thought, well, okay. I didn't understand, but I knew that was a kind of faith that God had to push me through. That no matter what I see or don't see, feel or don't feel, if I've made a commitment to God and God has called me, that's it. You stick with that. And that has become part of the foundation of my faith until today. That this is the way it is. That when you make a commitment, you don't allow anything to knock you off course. And you don't let your pity, self-pity, knock you off course. So that was one experience. Yes.
¿Qué consejo nos puede dar para ser a las mejores madres?
What advice can you give us to be better moms?
Better moms. Always see the potential in your children. You're always going to see the mistakes they make, right? You're always going to see their flaws. You're always going to see the times that they don't obey. You're always going to notice, oh, this child is so lazy, or this child is so silly, or this child's never going to understand math, he's never going to do his homework, or you see the things that are wrong. You see that they don't eat their vegetables. You see that they don't get to bed on time. You know, they don't like taking baths, all these things. But if you focus on those things, you're not going to be the mother you should be. Because our example as a parent is God. And God always sees the potential in us. He sees what we could become. And when you see that in your kids and you believe and you're rooting for them, you're believing in them, and they come home with a bad report card from school, just for example, of course you're disappointed. You want them to do better. But your job is to motivate them to want to do better because you know you are smart. You're great. You're the best. God created you to do something wonderful, and I know you have it in you. You're talented, and you bring that out like a gardener that tends to a little tiny plant that they planted. They nurture it and bring out the best in that plant. That's how you bring out the best in your children. Anything else?
Anything
Any other
else?
question? Roxana, you have no questions? You done?
Thank you, Ms. Evelyn, for this interview. It's been very helpful, and I'm pretty sure a lot of other women will get some good advice.
All right.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Very helpful.
Bye-bye.